I love being sick. Being sick is so fun. It's so great. I don't get sick very often, but I'm a human being, so it happens. So right now I'm getting over a pretty rough cold, and so my intrepid audio editor will be editing out a lot of my coughs as I go along here. So if my voice sounds funny, and if I don't have quite the level of energy I usually have, that is why. I am talking to you today from Asuncion, Paraguay, once again. I'm in Paraguay for about a month, mid-July through early August or so. And I'm in my new Paraguay apartment, and I'm looking out over the view. And it's funny because I just came from Miami, Florida, where I was hanging out with Pink Firefly for about 2 weeks. And the apartment we got there is actually crappier than the apartment I have here in Paraguay, which is kind of strange, here in like a second world country. This is a pretty nice apartment I've got here. But to give you context for what I'm going to talk about this podcast today, I was in Dubai, then I flew out to Miami, then I flew to Paraguay. Then my plan was originally to go back to Dubai and then take off for Armenia. And that's to be out of Dubai during the very hot summer months of June, July, August. But I just got a notification from my attorneys in Panama that some of my paperwork is ready. And so what I might do is I might go back to Panama instead of back to Dubai and go straight from Panama to Armenia in late August. Or early September, I should say. No, early to mid-September? It's complicated. I don't know. My staff has my schedule, but who the fuck knows? But I am truly living an international lifestyle, and there is a particular way of thinking that I have recently broken into. And it just kind of happened kind of by surprise. And it's very recent, only in the last few weeks, I started thinking this way. And the reason this is important is because you can't accomplish certain things in your life if you don't first get into a mode of thinking that things are possible. Or in a roundabout way, you don't think they're possible until you do them, which is kind of the opposite of what I just said. Can you tell I'm sick? So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you make $25,000 a year. You made $25,000 a year your whole life. And I talk about making $75,000 a year, location dependent, alpha male 2.0, minimum income. And you say, oh my God, $75,000 a year, that is so much money. There's just no way I could do that. Because I remember thinking thoughts like that myself back in the early 90s when I was 18 years old and, wanted to make a lot of money. And these small numbers that at least are small to me today seem so big back then. Like, oh man, if I made $50,000, I remember thinking this. For a year or two, I would walk outside when I had one of my bullshit corporate software jobs, and I would walk outside on my break in these vast fields out in Beaverton, Oregon, and I would fantasize when I was like 18, 19 years old, man, if I made $50,000 a year, oh man, that'd be so great, but that's so much money, I don't know. So then let's go back to what I was saying. You make $25,000 a year, and you're thinking $75,000 is a lot of money. And eventually, in spite of yourself, you hit $75,000 a year. And you're like, oh, okay, I can do that. Wow, all right. But then you think, oh man, $100,000 a year? Man, that is so much money, there is no way. I mean, if I made that kind of money, man, I'd be so rich. Oh man, that'd be crazy. I can't even comprehend making $100,000 a year. And then you do it. Let's say for some weird reason you do it. And you're like, oh, okay, that was easy. All right, I can make $100,000. All right, that's no big deal. And as soon as you accomplish something, it instantly becomes no big deal. And I can tell you this from vast experience, hitting many income levels throughout my adult life. Certainly the $100,000 a year one was a big income goal for me for about 10 years in my early 20s. So when I hit it, I was like, wow, this is great. And then I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. So, and it just works that way all the way up the income ladder. And today, I make more money than I ever thought I would make, more than any financial goal I've ever set for myself. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I'm not talking about income. I'm giving you an example of this thought process of living an international or location independent lifestyle. And so I have this mindset breakthrough that I just recently experienced in my life last few weeks. And before I tell you what it is, I've got to give you the three ingredients, because there's three things that I have in my life now where if I didn't have all three of these things, and literally you need all three of these things to think this way, because if any one of these things were missing, I promise you, I would not think this way, okay? So it's all these three things. The first thing is location independence. This is Alpha Male 2.0 101. I have location independent income. 100% of my income is location independent. I can go wherever I want, whenever I want, stay there for as long as I want, months if I want, and I have, and I'm doing that right now. You're here in Paraguay for a month, and have no dip in income while I'm gone. My income sustains because it is not tethered to any geographic region whatsoever, at least in terms of my physical presence. And I've mentioned this before, that was a goal I had for a long, long time in my adult life. Even before I formulated Alpha Male 2.0, I had this goal, this fantasy and a goals, both. And my goal is very specific. It was to leave the country and be gone out of the country, not out of town, out of the country for a month, at least a month. Today it's infinite, but at least a month, and have no dip in income while I was gone. That was a huge goal for me for a long time. And as you may know, I've hit that goal many years ago, maybe over a decade ago. So I'm 100% location dependent. I have location independent income. So that's the first ingredient to this way of thinking. The second ingredient to this way of thinking is I have not only location independent income, I have high income. I know guys who have location independent incomes, but they make about, $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $60,000 a year. It's location dependent, which is cool. It's Alpha 2.0 income, which is great, but it's not very high. My income is, I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but it's a lot. It's many, many, many multiples of what I used to make. And over the next 2 years, I have things in place where I will be making money that I now consider crazy money. Matter of fact, the money I make now is kind of crazy in terms of the context of myself just 6-7 years ago. So not only do I have location dependent income, I also have a high income. Now, why is that important? Because, and this will become more clear in a minute as to why this is important, I have the ability to pretty much buy, in terms of my day-to-day life, anything I want. Not literally anything I want. I can't pay cash for a yacht or a private jet. Not literally anything I want, but I said in terms of my day-to-day life, I can buy whatever I want and I don't care about how much it costs. I grew up in a poor family, and so for most of my adult life, including up into just a few years ago, even after I'd making a six-figure income for, decades, I was very cost conscious. I'm a very, frugal guy, and I would always check prices of food I buy at the store, and whenever I buy something on the internet on Amazon, I would check that, that's $200. Maybe I could find one for 140 or 170 or 180. Oh, this one's 180. Oh, maybe I should get this one. I don't do that anymore. If I need it, I buy it. I don't even think about how much things cost because I'm at that level now, that income level. And that applies to travel, but I'll cover that in a second. So the third ingredient is, and this is more unique than I thought. I thought a lot of people were like this, but I was wrong, is that I have the emotional and in some cases physical fortitude to put up with the rigors of hardcore international travel. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll give you an example. Flying out here to Paraguay last week, I was sick. It was one of my worst sick days in this cold I've got. Oh my God, he killed him, it's COVID. No, it's a cold, but it was a heavy cold. It was a decent cold. And in the middle of my worst day with this cold last week, I had to fly a red-eye flight out of Miami to Asuncion, Paraguay. Now, fortunately, it was a nonstop flight, but it was an 8-hour flight, literally in the middle of the night. It left at 1 a.m. and I got here at, 9 a.m., something like that. And so, A, it's in the middle of the night, B, I'm on an airplane, and C, I'm really sick. So I didn't sleep at all. And trust me, when you're really sick and you don't sleep, that's really bad because sleep is the most important. Sleep and liquids are the two most important things you need when you're sick to get over your disease, to get over your cold or whatever. And if you can't sleep and you're sick, it was bad. So I had a rough night and I had a rough few days last week and it was not fun. And I have done flights like this, not sick, but flights where I'm flying literally from Dubai to South America. You would be hard pressed to find more difficult flights in terms of flying around the world. Try that sometime. Try flying from Paraguay to Dubai. You have to take an 8-9 hour flight, usually with some kind of layover in the middle of that, to Brazil or to Panama City or up to Miami. And then from there, you have to go to a city in the United States, like to Houston or JFK. Then you have to you can't fly direct, in most cases, in a COVID world. You can't fly direct to Dubai. You got to go to fucking Germany, then get a layover in Germany, then fly to Dubai, So you're literally hitting, 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 legs of a flight. And sometimes it's so bad you have to actually sleep in a hotel. I've done this, sleep in a hotel room on one of those legs to just sleep, to catch up on your sleep, and then hop on the plane the very next morning again. And then you have to go through all the horrible airport stuff. We live in the worst time in all of human history in terms of air travel because we are both post 9/11 and post COVID. The two greatest events that allowed governments to crack down on their people all over the world, certainly in terms of things like air travel. So air travel is a real nightmare, and most guys who I know, including those who love Alpha 2.0, including some men who are Alpha Male 2.0s, wouldn't do what I just described. They're just not going to take those kinds of flights. They're just going to say, oh, nope, fuck that. I'm just going to stay where I am. I'm not going to travel. I hate travel. I can't do that. I'm not willing to do that. And that includes a lot of people. Maybe most people are in that category. Probably not maybe, probably definitely. Probably definitely. Is that a correct phrase? Anyway, I have the emotional fortitude to put up with that shit. I don't like doing it, but I put up with it. Now, I'm a very organized, systematic person. I have a very specific system for when I fly that makes it much more convenient for me than most people. I have ways of sleeping on planes during certain time zone changes. I couldn't do that last week because I was sick, but normally I know how to find spots on the plane where I can lay down and sleep. I know how to set up my laptop for long flights if I don't have any internet connection to be both productive and to have things that entertain me. I'm just very good at flying because I've been doing this I've lived in this lifestyle for 20 years plus. So I am willing to fly anywhere in the world, regardless of how painful it might be compared to the typical person. So if you combine those three things, location independent income, high income, and the ability to put up with whatever horrible problems airports, airlines, and governments throw at you in terms of international travel, that equals something. What does that equal? Well, you may have heard the term, and I have used the term, citizen of the world. And that is when you consider yourself not a citizen of any individual nation or nation state, but instead a citizen of the world, a global citizen. This is a term that's used around the internet sometimes. And some men will talk about how they consider themselves a global citizen. I am in that category. Since February of this year, I no longer consider myself an American, and I really don't. As a matter of fact, when I went back to Miami, I hate saying this. I take no pleasure from saying this, but this is how I feel. The last 2 or 3 times, last few months, I've gone back to the United States for various reasons. I don't feel good. I don't like it. I kind of feel gross. It doesn't matter if I'm going to Miami. It doesn't matter if I'm going to Los Angeles. It doesn't matter if I'm going back home to Portland, Oregon, home, my old home. It doesn't matter where I'm going. It doesn't matter if I'm going to Scottsdale, Arizona. I just don't really like it. So not only do I not consider myself an American, I consider myself a citizen of the world, a global citizen. I consider myself a citizen of the planet, not of any individual nation state. Now, that is very different than what I used to think. I used to think the opposite. Not only did I consider myself an American, but the mindset I have had throughout my life up until just a few weeks ago is that whenever I flew somewhere internationally, I would have this thought, and this thought would be, wow, this is really far away. Dating all the way back to when I first started flying internationally for the very first time, back in the early 2000s, my first real international trip was to Hong Kong. And I remember thinking back then, wow, I'm on the other side of the planet Earth. I am so far away from Portland, Oregon. This is crazy. And I would do things like, and not just back then, but like throughout my life, or throughout the last 20 years or so, I would do things like bend down and scoop up like a rock. If I was in London, or if I was in China, or if I was in New Zealand, I would like pick up a rock or a piece of bark dust, and I would hold it in my hand and say, wow, this rock is on the other side of the world. I am so far away. In other words, going to a foreign land was such a big deal to me. It was exciting and it was good. It was great. But it was also just a big, big deal. I am so far away. Not only that, the cost. So I don't believe in debt. So what I used to have to do when my income wasn't as high as it is today is I would have to save up for several months to go on an international flight, to pay for the airline ticket and to pay for the hotel or Airbnb, and incidentals and things like that. I had to save it up. And so it was like a big deal to go on a plane and go somewhere because it would cost, I don't know, $1,100 to go on a round trip ticket to Japan or Shanghai, China from the West Coast of the United States. Just a big, big deal. So financially, it was a big deal. Logistically, it was a big deal. And emotionally, it was a big deal to fly so far away. And I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, I took my mom to Europe because she had never traveled outside the United States before. And so while she was still young enough to do it, my mom's getting pretty old. Both my parents are getting pretty old. I wanted to give her that gift. So I took her to Europe and we went to, I mentioned it on my blogs at the time, and we went to London, we went to Paris, went to Italy, went to Sicily, a few places. And I remember her seeing and feeling the same way. She would go there, we'd land in London, and we'd be walking around London. She's like, wow, I'm in London. This is so crazy. I'm across the Atlantic Ocean. I'm so far away. And I'd watch her say these things and just look wide-eyed at the city. And I would say, oh yeah, I remember thinking that way, yeah. And I still would think that way a little bit. Like, wow, this is a big, big deal. Especially when I went somewhere new. But even if I didn't go somewhere new, so if I went, I visited Hong Kong a billion times, I would still feel that way. The sheer distance and logistics involved of going from one side of the earth to the other was just a big, big, big deal for me. And also, I envied people when I was a young man in my early 20s. I would envy rich people. I would envy certain rich people. And I would envy their ability to go anywhere they wanted. So I was talking to a friend of mine, an older gentleman back when I was in my early 20s. I had a job, and this guy was probably, I don't know, maybe of the age I am now, late 40s. And we were talking about the CEO and / owner of the software company where we both worked. It was like a 500 employee company, software company. And the owner of the company is a guy named Mike. It's founder, owner of the company. And the guy was talking was saying, yeah, Mike and his wife are the kind of people where they could just wake up in the morning and look at each other and go, hey, you want to go to Paris today? And they go, yeah, it's a good idea. Let's go. Like, all right, cool. I'll get tickets. And that's how easy it was for them. That's how easy a thought and process that was. And when he said that, I remember my eyes just getting wide and just taking a deep breath, like that would be so amazing to have the financial wherewithal and the time wherewithal. So again, you can have the financial wherewithal to do that, but not the time wherewithal. If you have a normal job, you make a 6-figure income at a goddamn job, can you just, take off one day and go to Paris? I mean, probably not. Maybe you could call in sick, maybe, but how would that fucking work? I doubt it. So to have the lifestyle where you could just wake up and at a moment's notice on a whim say, hey, let's go to Hawaii, let's go to Paris, let's go to Mykonos, let's go to Hong Kong, and just go, okay, and just go. Just buy the ticket, not worry about, oh my God, well, if we buy the tickets right now, they'll be really expensive because we didn't buy them 2.5 months in advance like you're supposed to. And well, what do we do about the kids? And what do we do with the pets? And well, I have a job, and not worry about any of that shit. Just go. The sense of freedom and location independence got me so excited. And this is years before I ever came up with Alpha Male 2.0. That's why location independence is such a core component of Alpha Male 2.0, because you're, as I've said many times, if you're locked into where you physically are to pay your bills, you are not free. And Alpha Male 2.0 is about the maximum amount of freedom you could possibly experience as a man in the modern era. So that means you need location independent income. It's a non-negotiable. And a few weeks ago, this is what I'm leading up to here. A few weeks ago, I realized that mentally 100% I was there. I would fly to various places all over the world at the furthest tips of the world from each other. Dubai / Paraguay would be a good example. And I would just be there. And I would say, yeah, this is my life. Yeah, this is the world. And I am no longer enamored or awed by the concept that I can be on the other side of the world literally whenever I want. I now have the wherewithal too. So financially, because I have a high income, logistically, because I'm location dependent, and emotionally, because I'll put up with any travel that's needed, unlike most people, I can literally be anywhere in the world I want, anywhere within 24 hours. At any given point in time, including right now as I speak these words into my laptop, looking out over the city in Asuncion, Paraguay, right now. I could, if I chose, if I wanted to, be anywhere in the world in 24 hours. I can be in Madagascar within 24 hours. I can do it. I can be in China within 24 hours. I can be in Japan within 24 hours. I could be in Alaska within 24 hours. I could. And if not 24 hours, close to it. Let's say, I don't know, 36 hours, be really conservative. All right, I'll say 36 hours. I can be anywhere in the world I want to be within 36 hours. Because I can, in terms of my location-dependent lifestyle, I don't have to be anywhere. I can afford to buy the plane ticket because my income allows me to do that. I could even buy a first class ticket or a business class ticket. Now, I probably wouldn't. That's where I am, still a little frugal. I may not do first class, but I can certainly do it. And if I have to take 2 or 3 painful legs to get to where I'm going, I'll just suck it up and do it. Because I'm a man, I'll do it. Instead of going, I don't want to do that, fuck that, I'm going to be so sleepy. What about the jet lag? I'll just do it. I'm like, all right, let's go. Boom, I'll do it. Now, knowing that I can do that, and I can, and I've done it. I've had days where I woke up in Dubai, or at least that night I was in Dubai, and blink and I'm in Paraguay on the other side of the planet. Knowing that, it no longer seems far away to me. Nowhere on earth seems far away to me anymore. You know why? Because I'm a citizen of the world. Earth is my home. America's not my home. Paraguay's not my home. No individual country is my home. Now, Dubai is certainly my home base. That's true. But I am not a citizen of the United Arab Emirates. I am a legal resident of the United Arab Emirates. I'm not a citizen of the UAE. I'm in Paraguay for a month. I'm not a citizen here. I'm a citizen, quote unquote, of the earth. So now literally the entire planet Earth is my home. There is no alien, faraway, crazy place that I can go to and go, wow, this is so far away. It's all my home. Literally. And this is actually emotionally how I feel now. It's not like a cool phrase like, global citizen. Oh, what a cool idea. It's not a cool concept. It's literally how I feel in my gut now. Because I can go anywhere I want, whatever I want, and I'll do it. And it's not a big deal to me at all. Logistically, financially, and emotionally. I can just be there. If I want to go to, Winnipeg, Canada, by tomorrow, I can do it. Even though I'm in South America right now. I could be in Berlin, Germany within 24 hours. I could do it. Not a big deal to me. It's a really different way of thinking. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still not 100% used to thinking this way. It still feels a little weird. It does. I love it. I'm not saying it's a negative feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. I can't tell you how good I have felt since I left the United States for many, many reasons. Not just because I dislike certain things in the United States, which is the easy part to talk about. It's not just running away from things. It's also running towards a better lifestyle. I have very strong aspects of both. I know some people who left the United States because they're just bitter and they fucking hate the United States. And I have some of that, I'll be honest. There's some of that, but a strong component, at least 60% of the reason I did that was because I'm moving towards something. Towards an international lifestyle, a Five Flags lifestyle, where I have maximum mobility, maximum freedom. I live in the entire world instead of having any one nation control my destiny. Ultra super low taxes, investment and business opportunities I could never pursue if I was stuck in the collapsing USA. All kinds of reasons. And this global citizenship that I now fully assume and have within my gut and my heart and my brain is another reason I did this. And it's really amazing. I mean, I'm sick right now, and I'm not 100% Caleb right now. But even then, I am so happy about this. I was smiling all day today when I realized that I felt this way. And it's brand new. Just the last few weeks, I started feeling this way, where I can, I live on the earth. And so if someone asks me, what is my nationality? It's not an American. I'm an Earthian. I don't know what word there is for this. I'm a global Earthian, global citizen. I don't know what the fuck I am. I'm a citizen of the planet Earth. No one nation controls me. No one nation sets my destiny. And most importantly, at least for me, I do not have to rely on any one nation to do well, which is Five Flags in a nutshell. That's Five Flags. And again, many of you listening to this podcast don't need to do full Five Flags. Maybe you just want to do 1 flag or 2 flags. But Five Flags, the full bore, means you don't need any one nation to do well. If any one of your flags does poorly, you go, oh well, and you just continue on your merry way. Unlike my ex-fellow Americans who are terrified about where their country is going or very angry about where their country is going. And because they're relying their entire lives and their entire futures and their entire emotions and the entire futures of their children and their family on this one stupid, insane, collapsing country called the United States. And in the United States, it's not the only one. Canada is just as bad. Western Europe's just as bad. Blah, blah, blah. Australia, it's not the only one. I want to pick on the US, but it's most of the Western world. Because they rely on one country, they can never be completely happy. They have to always, 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 always be stressed about this and or pissed off about this. I don't care. I live a Five Flags lifestyle. And I'm not even 100% done with my Five Flags logistics. I'm not even done. It's probably going to be another year and a half. Again, because of COVID, what happened last year, I've had a year delay on some of this stuff. It's probably a year and a half before I'm completely done with this stuff. So I'm not even completely done, but I still live this lifestyle. I just don't care what happens to the United States individually as a country. I just don't care. I don't care what happens to the United Arab Emirates individually as a country. I don't care what happens to Paraguay individually as a country. I don't care what happens to Panama individually as a country. All my other flags, Hong Kong. Guys ask me, what about Hong Kong? All the protests and China coming in. I don't care. It's one of my flags, but I'm not a Hong Konger. I'm an Earthian. I am not reliant on any one country. God, does it feel good. It's so good. It's one of those things, I've said this before, Alpha Male 2.0 is so goddamn good. You guys got to do this. You don't know what you're missing. It's so good. I didn't realize how good this felt in terms of an emotional barrier that I had to punch through to get to the point where I now think of myself as a global citizen rather than as an American or as a resident of the UAE or whatever other moniker people assign to themselves. It's good. And obviously, it's good to have those three resources: location-independent income and high income. Maybe you don't give a shit about the travel part, about being able to put up with horrible travel conditions. That's fine. Maybe that's not your thing, and that's okay. You can live an international lifestyle and or a Five Flags lifestyle and or a 2 or 3 Flags lifestyle without having to travel as much as I do. You certainly don't need to do that if you don't want to. But having location-independent income is the shit, bro. It's awesome. I mean, there are guys I know who make double the income that I make, and I make good money. But there are guys that I know who make a lot of money, like the big money, and they're envious of me because they're location dependent. And most of these fucking guys are monogamously married, so now they're really jealous of me. We haven't even talked about non-monogamy and how that ties into a Five Flags or international lifestyle. I'm having a good time down here in Paraguay. Just like I have a good time in other places I live. But you get my point. And then high income. Those of you who want to pursue a high income or have a high income, but maybe it's not location independent yet. Alpha Male 2.0 is not about get rich. That's not what it's about. I teach having a $75,000 a year in USD minimum before tax income. And that's not rich. That's not a lot of money. But if you want to make the big money, and I know there's a lot of you that do in my audience, dude, it's good. It's really good. When you combine, and I've said this before, actually, you know what? I haven't said this before publicly. I say this privately to guys in the Alpha Male 2.0 Focus program and the SMIC program, and sometimes a few in the Alpha 2.0 Society. When you combine location independent income with really high income, when I say high income, I mean income well above $500,000 a year. So high 6 figures or 7 figures or even 8 figures a year. When you combine those two things, you're making that kind of money and it's location dependent. You're a god among men, my friend. And I don't mean that literally, but you know what I mean. In terms of lifestyle, pretty hard to beat my lifestyle. That's why I've said before, Alpha Male 2.0 is the greatest lifestyle attainable to the average guy without having to be super rich. It is. It just is. I mean, if you don't have this kind of scenario already, imagine if you made $250,000 a year, completely location independent, and you're paying maybe 10% total in terms of your taxes, right? So, I mean, pencil that out. How good will your life be? And you're Alpha Male 2.0, which means you only have to work 30 hours a week or less to maintain that income, which is true with me. I work a lot more than 30 hours a week because I choose to. But for example, last week, I didn't work very much. I was traveling the first part of the week while sick, and then I was sick as a dog the second half of the week. So I worked a little, but not much. And guess what? Did I lose any money last week? No. Matter of fact, we just did a webinar, me and my chief of staff, last Saturday, and it was the second highest grossing webinar we've ever done. And we had a few guys actually tell us during the webinar, this is the best webinar they've ever been to. Pretty cool. And that's all while I was barely working, had traveled to Paraguay, and was sick. This is a really good life. And maybe I don't sing his praises often enough. Maybe I focus too much on the how-to, and I don't talk enough about the emotional side of stuff because, I'm an INTJ, that's how I work. But goddamn, now I'm starting to wonder about what other emotional and or spiritual breakthroughs I will now experience going forward in this life, since me no longer being an American or a resident of the UAE in terms of emotions, that's a pretty new condition for me. It's only been, 5 months? So I'm a newbie to this style, this lifestyle, in terms of living a Five Flags lifestyle. I'm not a newbie to Alpha Male 2.0. I've been doing that for 14 years. But in terms of Alpha Male 2.0 plus Five Flags, where I'm no longer worried about any one nation, I don't live in the United States anymore, I'm a baby. It's only been 5 months, and already I've had these emotional breakthroughs. I wonder what else is coming. And as I've mentioned, since I make the amount of money today that I never thought I would make, God knows what's going to happen to me in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I can't even imagine how good my life is going to be in 10 years, after 10 years of living this lifestyle. Now, I have a pretty good picture of the next 2. I have a very good picture of the next 2, both in my lifestyle and my income and my business structures. I mean, that's how I roll. I map everything out. I plan ahead. I set objectives. I set benchmarks, and then I do it. But 2 years isn't a super long time. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. I mean, there's new horizons within the Alpha Male 2.0 world that I haven't experienced yet, which is crazy if you think about it, since I pioneered a lot of this lifestyle. Not all of it. I'm not the international stuff. A lot of guys did that before me. But you know what I mean. Alpha Male 2.0 is international location independent income plus non-monogamy and a very abundant sex life, even if you are married and or have a serious girlfriend. It is truly unique. There's nothing else in the world or on the entire internet like it. And I am very happy and very proud to not only live that life, but to help bring that lifestyle to other people, which is part of my mission. Part of my mission is to maintain a network of 1 million Alpha Male 1.0s. I want 1 million guys to experience what I'm experiencing. 1 million. Now, maybe not exactly what I'm experiencing, maybe not to the level I'm experiencing it, but at least some of it. And that's what gets me up every morning. That's a core component. It's not my entire mission, but that's a core component of it. So that's it. I don't know if I've been rambling in this podcast. Like I said, I'm sick. So, not 100% today. But next time I go through one of these emotional breakthroughs, not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. You don't want breakdowns. Those are bad. You want breakthroughs. Those are good. But next time I have one of these emotional breakthroughs, I'll do another podcast. Or maybe I'll do it or do a video or whatever. This is, I'm super curious as to what my future holds in terms of positive events that I now cannot anticipate. Because so much of my life, or at least some of my life, is good in ways I could not anticipate. Now, a lot of my life is good in ways I directly anticipated. But some of this stuff I did not anticipate at all. And so I'm wondering what's coming next. And that's the kind of lifestyle you can look forward to when you get off your dumb ass, stop being lazy, stop being a beta, stop being a pussy, stop making excuses, and get to fucking work. Starting your location independent business, beefing up your women skills so you can date at least two women you find attractive over a long term so you're non-monogamous. Those 2 things. It's a good life. You should do it. And those of you who already have this life, you already know what I'm talking about. You don't need me to preach to you. You already know it. You already know how good it is. But that's it. I'll talk to you very soon. Have fun. Bye.